Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 275 of Screw the Commute podcast. We're here with Fred Berns, long time friend of mine, and tremendous marketing coach. And if you want to see his cool haircut from the 90s, and with me playing Santa Claus for his son, make sure you check out the show notes for this episode. So I'm going to introduce Fred to you in a minute. Let's see. Episode 274 was tricks of the trades and cleaning up worthless expenses. You know, and a lot of us have extra time sitting around during this pandemic. So I thought, I'm going to go clean up some worthless stuff. And I got a lot of tricks of the trade to help you get rid of expenses. And when you get rid of expenses, you don't have to make as much money to be profitable. So that'll be a very helpful episode for you if you missed it. All right, how would you like to hear your own voice here on Screw the Commute? Well, if the show's helped you out at all in your business or given you ideas to help you start a business, we want to hear about it. Check out screwthecommute.com and look for a little blue sidebar that says send a voicemail. Click on it, talk into your phone or your computer, and tell me how the show has helped you, and put your website in there, and we'll give you a big shout out on a future show. I hope you didn't forget to grab a copy of our automation ebook. We sell it for $27, but I just can't push this on you hard enough. I mean, we're giving it to you, and it has helped me handle up to 150,000 subscribers and 40,000 customers without pulling my hair out. And it helps me grab money from other competitors because I handle things lightning fast, and this will do the same for you. So grab a copy at screwthecommute.com/automate free. Screwthecommute.com/automate free. All right, so while you're over there, pick up a copy of our podcast app. It's really cool. It'll help you do cool things. If somebody's calling you on the phone, the podcast will stop, and then when you hang up, it'll pick right up where you were. So grab a copy of that at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. Now, what's happening right now, because everybody's home, is work from home search term is going crazy on Google. Homeschooling is picking up. They're selling home exercise equipment like crazy now. So that's a business you might want to get into. Our school teaches you these techniques. I've been preaching this since 1977. No, that's when I've been in business since 1977. I've been preaching this internet stuff since 1994 when I started selling on the internet. The commercial internet came around in 1994, and it's like an insurance policy for your family. So we teach all these skills at the only, and I want you to pay attention to that word only, because I'm going to tell Fred about how he did something for me years and years ago and he doesn't even know about. So it's the only licensed and dedicated internet marketing school in the country. So probably the world. All right, we'll get to that a little later. That's at imtcva.org. So let's get to the main event. Fred Berns is here. He's a personal marketing coach who helps business professionals increase profits by promoting themselves more effectively. He's a copywriter who creates, and you know what, if you've been listening to this show, you know how important copywriting is. It's the number one skill in my entire career. And he's one that's made millions of dollars for people doing this, that's for sure. So he creates websites, social media, and marketing copy for companies worldwide. He's the author of sales and marketing books, videos, and other learning tools. And he's a popular presenter who speaks at business events in general and interior design industry events in particular around the world. Fred, are you ready to screw the commute?
You better believe it.
You've been screwing us commute for a long time, like me.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong
screwer,
home-based business and thought of it.
Yeah, so I emphasize that word.
I get to work. The nice thing about it, Tom, I get to work on time in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason I emphasize that word only, because years and years ago, when I was first starting, I heard you talk, and you were talking about using, I think we called them superlatives, only, the biggest, the best, the first. And I have been using those forever. Like I have the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school in the country. I have the largest email list in professional speaking. I got the only retreat center of its kind in the world. So all of that came from you, and I want to publicly thank you for it right this moment.
Well, I appreciate that, Tom. Only is the $1 million word, and I always tell my audiences that tell me what only you do, and I will buy only from you. It's that important.
That's a good quote. We'll make that quote up on a graphic for you and put it in your show notes. So tell everybody, you're kind of living the life of leisure now, buddy. But you built a lifestyle business over all these years. So tell them what you're doing now. Then we'll take you back and see how you came up through the ranks.
About a year ago, Tom, I entered the next phase of my career, which is retirement, and I'm enjoying it a lot. This followed years and years of working first in the journalism industry in Washington as a broadcast journalist. And then after that, I wrote a book on how to sell yourself. The name of the book is Sell Yourself, 501 Ways to Get Them to Buy From You. And I traveled around the country promoting that book and talking about the importance of personal promotion. And then shortly thereafter, 9/11 occurred, and I lost a lot of speaking opportunities, as I'm sure you did as well, back in 2001. And at that point, I had to decide what one group was most loyal to me, that was buying most of my products, hiring me most often to coach, and generally being most receptive to me. And I realized it was the interior design industry. So thereafter, I pretty much niched in that industry and ended up speaking at conferences around the world, coaching designers from Dallas to Dubai, and really discovering that a niche can make you rich. Not that I'm rich, but I mean, it certainly was a success path for me.
Well, yeah. And was that a hard decision for you? Because I remember when I first started, all the elders, I started in the professional speaking around 1991, and all the elders were telling me, you got to niche down. And I was like, I can't do that. That's too boring to me. And so in my first 5 years, I went to 87 different industries. and it was hard because I'm a real stickler for pre-program research, and I had to spend months to figure out the Pennsylvania Dry Cleaning Association, and so as soon as I listened, got my two before the head and picked a niche, then everything changed. It got a lot easier. Well,
the same thing happened to me, Tom. I realized that you can't be all things to all people, mm-hmm. and I too was getting tired of reinventing myself for every different audience, mm-hmm. and trying to learn about the issues so that I could personalize and customize my talks and my articles and everything. But then you realize that once you pick a lane and stay in that lane, it is a lot easier to market yourself. It's a lot easier to make an impact, and a lot easier to become a well-known personality within the industry.
Yeah, I tell people, I said, trust me, people don't tackle me for my autograph walking down the street, all right? But in some places, they almost do. All right, and that's the point, is to get really known in one industry. And I know it's hard when you're first starting and you're trying to pay the bills, but boy, it sure changes everything. Now, see, I got a second career idea for you already, man. I saw your picture you sent me. Where do you see this picture of this guy, folks? This guy is like the same guy that would be on a TV commercial for Viagra or something. All right, he's just.
Well, as a matter of fact, that's my other source of income right now, is working in the Viagra industry.
Yeah. I don't know if you're kidding or not, but you're definitely
that's a joke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, he just looks like the perfect guy, male model kind of guy, except he's got brains too. So take us back and tell us how you came up through the ranks. How'd you get started? Did you ever have a job?
Well, I started out I went to journalism school at the Northwestern University, and after graduating University of Wisconsin, got into journalism, moved to Washington, D.C. During the spring. I was working at a newspaper in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Sentinel. And I went to Washington, D.C. on spring break, and I went to the top of the National Press Building, the 13th floor, and knocked on every door I could find going down. And when I got to the 11th floor, I arrived at an office of Thompson Newspapers, which is an international newspaper chain. At the same time, a gentleman was walking out the door. And I learned that he had just been fired, and I got hired to take his place. And so I went back to Milwaukee, quit my job, moved to Washington, and became a I worked for Thompson newspapers. Ultimately started my own news bureau called the Berns Bureau. And I
Wait a minute. I get this straight. Were you cold calling, knocking on doors, and then, or you just got lost and hit the wrong door? I mean, so you're saying
I figured if I was going to be a journalist, if I was going to be a news correspondent, what better place than Washington, D.C.? I had my Milwaukee fix. I was ready to move to the big show. So I figured I would start at the National Press Building and just see if there was any chance of getting a job. And
okay,
I heard no a lot, but I did get that opportunity when I arrived on the 11th floor at Thompson Newspapers.
Wow. All right, good. Okay, so so then what?
So I worked for them for about a year, I think it was, and then got fired because I took a vacation and just forgot to tell my boss I was going to stay a couple of extra weeks. I came back and found myself without a job in Washington. Then I became a stringer for a bunch of radio stations and ultimately TV stations and newspapers.
Tell everybody what that means. What's a stringer?
So in other words, I was the Washington correspondent for WISN Radio in Milwaukee, and every time there was the mayor of Milwaukee would come to testify at some hearing, or every time there was a piece of legislation that affected Milwaukee, I would be the guy who would come on the air and do the story.
Got it.
About the effect in the local market. And I parlayed that into an entire news organization, and by the time I sold it to one of my correspondents in 1995, we had served over 10,000 TV, radio stations, and newspapers around the world.
Wow. And that's when you got out of Dodge then too, right?
Yeah, I got out of Dodge. I had begun doing giving a class on free publicity, how to get noted and quoted, noted, quoted, and promoted in the media was the name of the class.
That's probably where I heard you, yeah.
Could have been. I enjoyed it a lot. I really enjoyed the speaking, so I decided that I was going to try to become a speaker. I joined the National Speakers Association, moved to Colorado, and in between, that was when 9/11 happened, and I lost my livelihood and decided I was going to niche in the interior design industry. So I ended up, once moving to Colorado, I was a speaker and copywriter and coach within the interior design industry and other industries as well, but mostly interior design from that point on.
So what happened to help you get through 9/11?
I had to do some soul searching, as I'm sure people are doing now, as they are trying to figure out how to move ahead after the virus ends. And I had to really look at my finances and decide where my main stream of income was coming from. And as I mentioned, I had spoken at a couple of interior design industry functions, and it seemed like my message was resonating the best within that industry. And I felt at that time that I couldn't go about doing business the old way. I couldn't be a generalist anymore after 9/11. So many conventions had been canceled. So many conferences were cutting back that it behooved me to, as I say, pick a lane and get some focus for the first time in my career. I figured that I had such a powerful message, after writing my book, Sell Yourself, that, who wouldn't hire me? But that philosophy went down the drain after 9/11, and I realized that speakers were a dime a dozen, and there wasn't that much demand for it, and it was really important to get more focused and have a direction in my career.
Now, when you picked this niche, and maybe even to this day, would you say that you are a professional designer?
No, not at all.
Not at all, right?
I know nothing about interior design. My wife doesn't even let me in the fabric store. She's afraid of the wrong decision. But I was speaking about things that really resonated. Like so many other artists, interior designers are are extremely talented at what they do, but they stink at running their business.
Exactly. Yeah.
They don't have a clue about how to overcome price objections. They don't have a clue about how to market themselves or differentiate themselves or even create promotional copy. So I saw a real opportunity. I mean, I could have probably I could have chosen another artistic niche just as well, musicians or painters or others. But I happened to connect with interior designers and realized that there was a great opportunity because there was no one at the time doing what I was doing. So I really had an open field.
Well, that's why I brought it up. That's why I brought it up to let people know you don't have to be an expert in the field that you pick as a niche. That's a fair statement, right?
Very much so. And I think, Tom, the key here when you're deciding who to work for, what kind of clients to seek, is where is the pain and what is the pain and can you solve it? I mean, I noticed a real pain point in the interior design industry. Again, an inability for these people to sell themselves and to market their businesses. And I figured I could be the one to be the caregiver. I could correct that pain. And as you say, I don't think you have to have an expertise in the industry as long as you have enough understanding of what the main pain points are. Because that's what sales is all about. It's pinpointing the pain and promoting yourself as the one to help people overcome that pain.
Yeah, and a perfect example of that for me was I got booked at this giant real estate convention one time because somebody had seen me speak somewhere else, and I wasn't the keynote. There was 32 breakout sessions, 16 in the morning, 16 in the evening. Some big New York Times bestseller was the keynote. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm going to get lost in the shuffle here. I don't know anything about this field. So I interviewed a bunch of real estate agents, and then I wrote the title to my presentation. I found out that it was very frustrating being a real estate agent, using your own car and gas and insurance and basically learning about their industry, the pain points, just like you were talking about. And so I wrote the title, How to Make the Sale When You Just Backed Over the Mailbox. And my session was packed. Nobody knew about me. See, so just taking the time to learn about the thing. But the point I want to drive home is you hear people all the time, well, I don't know anything about that. I'm not an expert in that industry. It doesn't matter. You're an expert at what you do, and you take it to that industry and give that to them and help them. And then you can be a superstar without knowing their industry. Now,
you know what I think? What I always felt was the $1 million question was, what's your biggest challenge? Mm-hmm. So in your case, when you were speaking to those real estate agents, I'm sure you asked some kind of permutation of that question. But when people are just starting out, especially if they can really become experts on the biggest challenges within an industry, they can write their own ticket.
Exactly.
I remember back in the day when we used to write articles as opposed to blogs and do podcasts, we used to write articles in industry publications. I would always try to do articles on the big, some challenge, some major challenge, sales and marketing challenge facing interior designers or other professionals, and kind of position myself as someone who could give them some insights on how to overcome those challenges. And that really worked well for me.
Absolutely. And in today's atmosphere, all you have to do is reverse that and just go and read what they're talking about. Get on their forums and just lurk and see what they're talking about, and then develop a plan to jump in. So, so we've got plenty of opportunities now. Now, you mentioned the word musician a while back. There's somebody that we know that's a musician, don't we?
My son, Zach,
who was sitting on my knee as a Santa Claus, and I don't know what year that was.
When we left Washington, he was 14 months old, but prior to leaving Washington, he sat on your knee, and you were playing Santa Claus, and I think that inspired him to become who he is today.
It has to be. Yeah, it has to be.
He's become a very successful drummer in Brooklyn, and he's a member of a couple of bands, hip-hop bands and R&B bands. And in addition to which, he's writing music, writing beats for commercial organizations such as Jägermeister and others.
Wow.
Background thing. And he's teaching at elementary schools throughout New York, teaching music as well. So he really picked up on this idea of knowing the importance of multiple streams of income.
But what's he doing now with being confined somewhat? So what can he still do?
He's homebound, but he is still writing beats and selling beats. By beats, I mean the background riffs that companies use in their commercials or singers or bands use for their online music.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit of a tough time for him as well, but at least he has different opportunities. I think that is such an important message for business professionals today, is to have multiple streams of income. Tom, that's something you always were very good at. It seemed to me you always seemed to have a lot of you were juggling a lot of balls at the same time, and I thought that was really brilliant.
Well, when they're electronic balls, it's not that hard, because if you drop one, it doesn't hurt so bad.
Yeah.
I got, I don't know, 20 some books to my credit, and only 2 of them have ever been seen ink on a page.
When we started, there were a lot of people in the speaking industry who were just speakers. They just wanted to be keynote speakers. And I can't imagine them succeeding in environments like this today. I mean, if that's all you're doing, and conferences are being canceled left and right, and meetings are being rescheduled, it'll be an awfully tough way to pay your mortgage.
Exactly. I mean, some of them are getting a little tweaks here and there of online training as a substitute, but not that. It's just not the same. There, as a big event where you're talking, and you and I knew people that were bankrupt after 9/11 when everything shut down.
Yeah.
So because that's all they could do. So multiple streams is for sure. So what? How do you spend your days nowadays?
Well, I'm doing a little bit of volunteering. I'm very active. I do a lot of biking and hiking.
Yeah.
Living in Colorado, that's a natural, and skiing, that kind of thing. So that's been big on my agenda. My wife and I do a lot of traveling. We've gone to Turkey and India and Nepal, and we're going to South America soon. So that we feel very blessed to be able to do that. Getting involved with some causes, both political and otherwise, which I've never had time for before, but now I really am looking to really become an important. I look forward to that being an important part of my life, is getting involved in political and other causes that really speak to me.
That's awesome. But I heard you talk about skiing, and I'll tell you what I hate about skiing is when some little 3-year-old kid stops to ask me if I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great catching up with you, man. Anything big on the horizon for you?
Well, I mentioned the trip we're taking to South America. We're going to Chile, Argentina, and Brazil.
You're not going to Venezuela?
We were supposed to have left March 13th. Obviously, that didn't work. So we're going to take that in the fall. So that's coming up. We're looking forward to going to New York if travel is allowed in August, and for 2 reasons. Our son Zach has got some major gigs that we're going to see. And it was also going to be my opportunity to go to Yankee Stadium to see my Chicago White Sox play. I'm from Chicago. I've always been a White Sox fan. I've never been to Yankee Stadium, so that was something I was really looking forward to. Now, of course, that's all very uncertain, so don't know how that's going to play out.
So are your books still available on Amazon and stuff?
I think I'm the single source now for my books. Books,
okay, but they're available. They're available.
I have them, but people would have to contact me directly to get them.
So got to take a brief sponsor break, and we'll come back. We'll tell them where to get a hold of you, where to get the books, and if they got enough money to afford a guy like you, a Viagra salesman, then maybe you could give them some consulting. So, folks, I really kind of made the internet marketing guru community mad back around the year 2000. People at my level were charging 50 or 100 grand up front to help business people with this internet marketing stuff. And I thought, I'm a small business advocate. That's too much money. And I knew a lot of these guys, and they wouldn't even come through once you gave them the money. So I kind of turned the marketing world on its head by giving a relatively small entry fee, and then taking a percentage of profits that was capped. So for me to get my big money, you had to make way bigger money. And people kind of loved this. And 1,700 students later, it's still going strong because they know I'm not going to disappear on them. And I pretty much live this lifestyle and have no interest in retiring from it. So check that out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. If you want to really get serious about your online business, and especially nowadays, hopefully you can see what I have been preaching since 1994 about how important it is as like an insurance policy, your family. And with all the digital products, things are 97% gross profit. I mean, you got to try really hard to mess up at 97% gross profit for things. So check out the mentor program. It has tons of only features that I learned from Fred, where it's the only place that you could ever come in and spend an immersion weekend and actually live in the house with somebody like me. We have a big estate in Virginia Beach, and lots of other unique features to the program you can't get anywhere else. So check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. Let's get back to the main event. Fred Berns is here, a prolific marketer for many, many years. So Fred, how do they get a hold of your books and stuff? Because a lot of the stuff is still totally valid.
Yeah, so the book, Sell Yourself, 501 Ways to Get Them to Buy From You, is, I call it the Blow Your Horn, Toot Your Flute Success Manual, because it's really about the power of the personal sale, the idea that you can't do the best job of selling your stuff until you do the very best job of selling yourself.
Got it.
This is where a lot of people, I think, struggle because when they grow up, they're told not to brag, not to be conceited, not to talk about themselves. And I feel like personal promotion is not about bragging. It's about educating your potential customers as to your value and how you're different from others. So it's really an important skill that we all need to master.
And you remember Cavett Roberts, who started NSA, claimed you're cheating people if you don't do stuff for them. And I really feel that way because I know a lot of the people are ripoffs that they would spend money with, and I wouldn't. I would take care of them if they gave me money. So I don't have any problem telling them that.
Yeah. So the book is I no longer make it available through like commercial sources like Amazon. I have it. Those people who want it can contact me directly. And let me give you my phone number, Tom. The best number to reach me
is and then
here in Colorado is 303-589-3013. 303-589-3013. Or they can reach me by email. It's fred@fredberns.com. Now that's FREDBERNS.com. Fred@fredberns.com, BERNS.com. And I can make the books available to them through those two channels.
Great.
Phone call or
Great. We'll have all that in the show notes so people can don't have to wreck their car writing it down. So,
and by the way, Tom, I wanted to, you were talking about your success with internet marketing, and you always were I always viewed you as a pioneer because you were, it seemed like the first one who was talking about this stuff back in the days when we were using fax machines. And
1994 is when the commercial internet started. Yep. I jumped on it.
I was never as skilled as I would have liked to have been at internet marketing. But the one thing that really, really worked for me and helped me build my business was blogging. Mm-hmm. I had a blog called interiordesignbusiness.net. And it was a blog that went to literally thousands of interior designers all over the world. And at one point I remember writing a blog post about the importance of interior designers raising their fees and attaching more value to themselves. And about a week later, I got contacted by this gentleman in Dubai who said, we're starting an association of interior designers here in the Middle East. Could you come and be the keynote speaker at our conference?
Wow.
And I did it that year, and then I did it the following year as well. So the point is, you never, ever know who's out there reading your blog posts. And I got so much business, both consulting and speaking and copywriting business, just for my blog posts. It's really the only marketing I ever did. But boy, it's something which really paid off big time for me.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right. You just never know. The way when I got a big kick was somebody was reading my electronic magazine. Great Speaking has been around since the beginning. And they happened to be a columnist for the Miami Sun-Sentinel. And they got a question about internet stuff. And so they had been following my e-zine, so they called me up and gave me credit for the answer that they put in their column in the Miami Sun-Sentinel. a PR group out of New Jersey was looking for an internet guy who could speak to be a spokesperson for CBS. $100,000 contract, easiest money I ever made in my life. They owned one of the biggest. CBS owned one of the biggest websites at the time. I can't even remember the name of it now. Main Streets Online was their program, and so I was the chief spokesperson for that. And it was just easy money, and that gave me a big cushion to buy this big estate down here. And so it's just. You just put good stuff out there, and you just never know who's going to see it. That's for sure.
And the important thing is you got to try this stuff. You got to try it out. I mean, so much of marketing, as you and I both know, Tom, is throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. Mm-hmm. But I believe in the Wayne Gretzky theory of marketing. That is, you miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Yeah, and there's way more shots to take now with all the social media outlets now. I mean, people are going on this crazy thing called TikTok. Somebody said, Tom, you ought to get on TikTok. I'm thinking, oh, man, that sounds like it. So I'm on there, and an hour later, I'm off because it's addicting. You're stuck there. And then all these outlets have potential customers for you, but we teach people how to automate it quite a bit because, you can't possibly do it all by yourself nowadays. There's so many new things. But the thing is, you got to do it and find out what works for you, increase that, decrease the other, and it can be extremely profitable. So Fred, thanks a lot for coming on. Tell Zach I said hi. I'm still wiping my leg off, I think, where he peed on my Santa suit. But hopefully
I'm going to send you the picture of the new and improved version of Zach Berns 26 years later. And I got to say that it all began on your knee.
Yeah, something began on my knee. I hope you got over that. And tell your wife I said hi. And geez, thanks so much for catching up with us, man. It's been very inspiring for all these folks out there. Thanks.
I've enjoyed it, Tom. Thank you.
All right. We'll catch everybody on the next episode. See you later.